Hello and thank you for tuning in to the AAU TV Mid-Week news, coming to you from the headquarters of the Association of African Universities in Accra, Ghana. My name is Maame Ekua Otuakoa. With me are
Jemima Deladem Dotsey.
And my name is Agyemang Darko.
And now the headlines on higher education. Educator opposes Polytechnic to universities' Craze. And also World Bank supports sees enrollment increase at TVET institutions.
And in our health news, children with insomnia likely to continue to suffer as adults, long-term study finds. And again, COVID-19 genetic risk variant protects against HIV, study reveals.
In our tech news, Tanzania unveils new non-invasive method to detect COVID-19. We're glad you made time to join us on AAU TV News. Stay with us for more news in a short break. Stay with us.
Welcome back from the break and the news in detail. The Executive Secretary of the National Board for Technical Education in Nigeria, Professor Idris Bugaji, has condemned the craze of converting polytechnics to universities, saying such a step is usually taken in ignorance of what the real trend in technical and vocational education is.
The Executive Secretary of the National Board for Technical Education, NBTE, Prof. Idris Bugaji, has condemned the craze for converting polytechnics to universities, saying such a step is usually taken in ignorance of what the real trend in technical and vocational education is. He therefore likens such an action as taking a step forward and taking many steps backward. He stated this during a workshop titled Improving Skills Development in Nigerian Polytechnics for Economic Growth, Entrepreneurship and Social Inclusion, organized by the Tertiary Education Trust Fund, TET-Fund, in Lagos. Whilst countries like China and Germany are giving priority to technical and vocational education, and with China even converting universities to polytechnics because they know what the future holds, we are in the craze for turning our polytechnics to universities here. We are having a dearth of technicians whilst we are heading for a glut of university graduates. There should be a paradigm shift. What we need to be able to compete well at the global level is to produce manpower that is skilled. We may not need a situation where you will be asking for 5 credits at general certificates in education level or somebody who scores 300 in the Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination. From 2023, the National Board for Technical Education will not accredit any course in any polytechnic if there is no skill training program on ground. Skills are now the currency of labor globally. If you are training somebody on building technology, take him to a live construction site to see what is happening, he added. Bugaji also said that the NBTE would soon come out with its ranking of polytechnics in the country and charge participants to think outside the box and make great impact on their lives of their students and the nation as a whole.
Well, there we have it in Nigeria. And I must say that the move to convert polytechnics to universities was first initiated by South Africa in 2004, where it decided to convert all of its technicons to universities of technologies. Now, other African countries did follow suit. In 2007, Ghana, for instance, proposed a law to convert all of its 10 polytechnics to universities. Kenya decided to also join the same trend by converting its polytechnics to universities. So basically, Nigeria isn't the only country that is trying to do this. Now, what I want to find out is some possible reasons that is influencing the need for polytechnics to be converted to universities in Africa.
Okay, so I'll take it from where you were talking about Ghana trying to change their technical universities to, polytechnics to universities. As at August 2016, 8 out of 10 polytechnics in Ghana were upgraded to the status status of technical universities for varied reasons. And in that matter, in that state, I'm going to talk about 2 reasons. One, I'll talk about the negative perception about polytechnics. You know, in the minds of many, people view polytechnics as inferior as compared to universities. For instance, according to some stories that I've heard, students who graduate from traditional universities are considered better equipped with their degrees and are given jobs and a lot of money than those in our polytechnics. So second of all, I'll talk about the issue of credit transfer. You know, some public universities refuse to let polytechnic graduates transfer credits from their HND programs to bachelor's degree programs. For instance, if an HND holder wants to continue or acquire a bachelor's degree in a public university, that HND holder would have to start from level 100, which I think is also one of the reasons why there is a shift.
Okay, Agyemang.
Well, I would say every institution has its own purpose, has its own foundation. Changing polytechnics to universities quite, maybe on some grounds, I bet you differ from what Jemima said. Technical universities becomes the final name for polytechnic to technical university, just to give it that status of a university, but still give you that hands-on operational skills. I don't think it's really of an issue to deal with compared to what we have in Nigeria. But if we really want to understand the reason, it's just to abridge the standard so you don't feel less significant to a university degree. So university degree is worth much more than a polytechnic. That stigma is what they want to, or these education councils want to do by eradicating that perception or that stigma, by creating a leverage for polytechnics to also rise to become technical universities and rub some shoulders with universities in terms of qualification. But you bear with me that there's something that differs in terms of rationale, in terms of operationalization, in terms of focus. It's a difference.
You know, my focus was on Africa because when you check reports in June 12, 2014, an article was published on the University World News's website that says major reforms as 600 universities become polytechnics. And this was an article that was based on China and a few other countries. My concern is why are polytechnics in Africa feeling the pressure or the need to convert their polytechnics to universities? Anyways, let's throw some light on why the Executive Secretary of the National Board for Technical Education in Nigeria is opposing this initiative.
Oh, okay, I'll take it. So I believe Prof. Bugaji is trying to put across something very important, which is that the world is advancing and we need more technical expertise to meet the growing demand. You know, when you compare our polytechnics and university, you could see that the universities tend to be theoretically inclined, whilst our polytechnics based on the skills that they have. So by so doing, he believes that the main focus should rest on acquiring skills to solve problems in our society and not the degrees that we have on our papers.
Okay, thank you, Agyemang.
You know, I think his main focus was about the priority here. What was the point? Trying to transform a system to a different system whilst the main focus of the system has not been changed. So polytechnics should be given attention in terms of teachers, or let's say lecturers who have the hands-on skill. The point is give people the skill to do something hands-on, make tables, fix things, engineers, build bridges, construction and all that. If government doesn't prioritize in enhancing the infrastructural capacity, let's say human resource capacity in these institutions, and then you want to just elevate the name Polytechnic, Technical University, whilst the foundation of these universities, or let's say the real engine that drives the point, is still the same what it is, then there's no point. So he believes that we should prioritize in getting the things right. He cited that, for example, government will invite people from India, China to come and construct bridges and then do mega projects in the country, whilst these students who are the polytechnics are there because government believes that they don't have what it takes, the right skill, the right hands-on skill to do it. So why then do you invest in elevation? It's just like branding outwardly and you ignoring how to enhance the inward. It makes no point.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Now, in Nigeria's bid to in Nigeria's bid to change polytechnics to universities, I just hope they weigh the pros and cons in this situation and they make the best decision out of it. Now, meanwhile, technical and vocational education and training institutions in East Africa, supported by the World Bank, funded East African Skills for Transformation and Regional Integration projects, have recorded a 4-fold increase in student enrollment over the past 2.5 years.
Technical and vocational education and training (TVET) institutions in East Africa, supported by the World Bank, funded East African Skills for Transformation and Regional Integration project, East TRIP, have recorded a 4-fold increase in student enrollment over the past 2.5 years. According to an internal mid-term evaluation of the project, the 16 institutions in Kenya, Ethiopia, and Tanzania have seen student numbers grow from 6,971 students in early 2019 to 30,776 at the end of 2021. The increase was recorded in both long-term and short-term training programs offered at the Project TVET Institute. The audit revealed that the total student enrollment in 16 regional flagship TVET institutes was more than 100% higher than the overall annual project target of 20,000. One of the objectives of the project is to boost the traditionally low enrollment of female students in technology and engineering fields. The audit showed that the number of women who enrolled increased from 741 to 5,230 during the evaluation period. The number of graduates employed within 6 months after graduating also rose from 47% to 69%, said Professor Gaspard Baniakimbona, Executive Secretary of the Inter-University Council of East Africa. The findings of the evaluation were announced at the Technical Advisory Meeting in Mombasa. The project is designed to increase the capacity of TVET institutions to develop highly specialized TVET programs at diploma and degree levels of the training of technicians and TVET faculty. The focus is also on industry-recognized short-term training, targeting regional priority sectors in transport, energy, manufacturing and ICT, he said. The project also aimed to support and improve regional integration. As a result, the institute admitted students from across East and Sub-Saharan Africa. With the financial support of $293 million from the World Bank over 5 years, the project is to support the selected TVET institutes to develop high-quality specialized content for training technicians and to develop market-driven, short-term training courses. This includes the construction of training facilities and specialized equipment. The Inter-University Council of East Africa had developed a 5-year strategic plan that seeks to entrench support for TVET institutions in the implementation of the East African Community Common Higher Education Area. The Acting Director of Technical Education in the Kenyan Ministry of Education, Tom Mulati, said the development of a harmonized regional TVET qualifications framework and occupational standard is a direction the world is taking, and East Africa could not afford to be left out. Technical skill and education offered by TVET institutions constitute one of the most viable post-secondary education solutions for youth unemployment in Africa, according to Dr. Patrick Mbataru, lecturer in public policy and administration at Kenyatta University.
Well, there we have it. TVET institutions in Kenya and Ethiopia sees massive increments in the number of enrollments within 2.5 years, which is the period in which these institutions received support from the World Bank to run their operations. Now, let's analyze the increment in the number of enrollment in the various sectors that stand to benefit from this increment.
Okay, first of all, I would say that it is joy to see the increment in enrollment into TVET institutions amidst the negative perceptions that it come with. Looking at student enrollment figures from the 16 institutions in Kenya, in Ethiopia and Tanzania, I would say that the numbers have quadrupled over the space of 2 years. And it is also important to highlight that the transportation, energy, manufacturing and ICT sector are key areas that need more skillful input, and they stand to benefit more in this case.
Okay, okay, Agyemang.
There's a clear evidence that people in East Africa, particularly young women, are very interested in TVET. I mean, looking at how the numbers increased from 741 to 5,230 women during the evaluation period, it's a clear evidence that they believe that the future is hands-on skills. I mean, what is the point? How can you live in a continent without skill, without the skill to do something? And tertiary education gives you that leverage to be able to think logically, make decisions, and manage very well. But these women have seen that hands-on skills also drives a great sector and brings revenue, and that's something they really take advantage of. That's a big one over there.
Okay, I would want us to also talk about how exactly some of these sectors stand to benefit. Let's start with industry. Agyemang? Yeah,
basically, that is the biggest booming sector for employment, for revenue, for government and all that. And if we want to expand employment, create more room for revenue for the Kenyan government, or let's say for the East African community, then perhaps TVET is a very great point to invest in. Unlike other continents, where perhaps in West Africa, basically, where TVET is very prospective, has great potential to create more employment, but you don't really see the focus. You don't see how the investment and how enhanced it is. We have underutilized the effect of TVET in our part of the world. But when you go to East Africa, see the rate of enrollment and see how it promises to expand the economy. Now, young women who have been, shut down in terms of gender equality and the issue of biases for young women to rise up through the corridors of power. This is one antidote to end it. TVET is a good antecedent to show that women can really empower themselves. Exactly. Women in transport, women in agriculture, women in engineering, women in so many hands-on skill, and also contributing to the national cake. It's one prospective item I believe that if we invest in, can open up the economy and also build a stronger continent.
Okay, now health news is up next.
Now, health news. According to our research, children with insomnia symptoms are likely to persist with them as young adults and are significantly more likely to develop an insomnia disorder in early adulthood compared to children who do not have difficulty sleeping.
This study is the first long-term cohort study to describe the developmental trajectories of childhood insomnia symptoms through adolescence and into young adulthood. The team's longitudinal study, which began in the year 2000, was designed as a random population-based study of children between the ages of 12 to 15 years. Children and their parents provided reports of the children's insomnia symptoms, defined as moderate to severe difficulties initiating or maintaining sleep. The children also participated in an objective in-laboratory sleep study using polysomnography, which can identify sleep apnea and other indicators such as the amount and quality of sleep. The team studied 502 children, 7.5 years later as adolescents and 15 years later as young adults. The team found that 43% of children with insomnia symptoms continue to suffer through adolescence into adulthood. Although about 27% of children with insomnia symptoms experience remission of symptoms by adolescence, close to 19% experience a waxing and waning pattern into adulthood. Among children without insomnia symptoms, about 15% of them developed insomnia symptoms in the transition to adolescence and persisted with them into adulthood. The key findings of this study is that insomnia symptoms in childhood are more likely to persist over time than we previously believed, said Fernandez Mendoza. Those with insomnia symptoms and laboratory measured short sleep duration are much more likely to evolve to develop a clinical condition in early adulthood, and not just to persist with the symptoms. So parents and clinicians should not assume that insomnia symptoms are benign complaints that would go away with age.
That is an educative story right there, talking about children with insomnia. But I would want us to discuss the general overview of insomnia.
Well, so insomnia is a sleep disorder that makes it difficult to sleep or to maintain sleep, and it can either be short-term or long-term. It's a short-term when it only occurs for days or weeks, and it's chronic when it occurs 3 times in a week for 3 months or more. And basically, people with insomnia normally complain of difficulties falling asleep, difficulties staying asleep, poor sleep quality, waking undesirably early, and daytime impairment.
Okay. Agyemang, would you like to add something?
Yeah, I mean, we compare insomnia to apnea. You know, insomnia is the inability to sleep, or let's say you being able to even go to bed, basically, compared to apnea, which is more of a disorder where you try to sleep, but repeatedly you take in heavy breath in and out. You know, with sleep, you should be able to have your breath reduce to the minimum, so your heart beats, or let's say you breathe in that much, but when you are getting to deep sleep, all these 2 things must suspend, so you can go to bed quietly. But you have apnea where you repeatedly breathe in heavily, and that will prevent you from sleeping. And then insomnia, that is any act that should get you to sleep, are all being reduced, so you can't really go to bed and you can't have a good sleep.
That's true. All right. So now let's continue with how children with insomnia are likely to suffer from the same predicament as adults, according to the study. Agyemang, would you start for us?
Well, I mean, it's very difficult here because the question is, what are we looking at with children who are suffering from insomnia? These disorders are very, very critical. What do your children do when they go to bed? You have kids who go to bed and they're on playing games, watching movies. Now, these are activities that we inculcate, we indulge in, that prevent us from having a good sleep. And if we let's say, if we indulge ourselves into it much more, then it takes away the normal means of we catching a good sleep. So before I go to bed, each and every day, I want to watch the 12 p.m. movie. So I make sure I don't miss that.
That's true.
Then afterwards, I pick my phone, I go to Facebook, I go to Instagram, and I'm checking online. How do you expect to have a good sleep if you have such a very poor sedentary lifestyle and you want to be everywhere? Your body doesn't get used to it. Now, if your body is not used to sleeping at this particular time, then it means that you still want to do the regular thing. So 12 p.m. you wait for the movie, go to social media, play games, then insomnia sets in. And it's not it's not airborne, it's not caused by mosquitoes, it's just by your attitude towards
Are you
sleep.
sure insomnia is caused by your attitude towards sleep? Because I mean, a lot of people don't have any control over that. People, I've actually encountered people who really wish they could sleep but they can't.
Well, you see, even though we understand that it's a mental disorder, everything that happens around us, apart from the ones that are caused by some causative organisms, have an effect on the brain. Basically, if I don't inculcate good habits towards sleeping, how do I expect my body to get used to sleeping at a particular time?
No, I perfectly understand what you're trying to say, but my point is, people who have insomnia do not deliberately decide that I do not want to sleep. There are some of them who try their best. People even go to see doctors. People go through cognitive behavioral treatment just so they can catch sleep, but it doesn't work. So how do you blame such a person and say that their attitude towards sleep is what's preventing them from?
You know, funny enough, if you dig into insomnia and its causes, you don't find anything like hereditary, like your mom can't sleep, so you can't sleep.
No. Well, I don't think I've come across this.
So I mean, we have to appreciate the fact that your sedentary lifestyle plays a key role here. If your lifestyle, and you know, I don't know, but people don't really want to tell the full story when it comes to why they are suffering from insomnia. But if they are supposed to say it all, what they have leveraged on, what they have actually indulged in, what they have built on over time, the body gets used to it. For example, with coffee, if you take coffee often, Now you mean that your body, you stimulate your body to do extra than it is. So your body actually extend its operation.
Yeah, that's true.
So to do more over time. So let's say I close from work, I get home at 7 p.m. My body says that you have taken coffee, and it means that it calls for overtime. So now I'm awake. My systems are still working. If I lie on the bed, within say 45 minutes, everything should shut down quietly, so I can go into sleep. But because the body has been fed with a sedative or a stimulant, it's now working as if you're still working because you give it a booster. And if you do it over time, the body gets used to it. So when you even stop taking coffee, it says, hey, I'm still waiting for the coffee because I think we have to go for overtime. Even though you want to back out, it's still what it is. So, I mean, children should be watched, they should be nurtured properly to get used to the right sleeping times and what the activities they get into, playing games, talking, watching movies. If you don't watch these things, these attitudes in kids, they get used to it. They go to bed, they don't sleep.
Okay.
You can watch the child's attitude, but if
the child says
if it requires
sleep,
medical attention, I don't think it would work. I know a lot of people who are suffering from insomnia that they try everything they can. Some even take sleeping pills and it doesn't work.
That's true.
So interestingly, it gets to a point whereby it is irreversible. That's what I'm saying, that it gets to a point where you want to back out, but it won't back out.
You know, how many people would go to the hospital and report that I am having insomnia, I can't sleep? How many people would do that? I think it is that approach to it. So whilst they are kids, they feel it is normal. So their bodies get used to not sleeping early. So every day you sleep at 1 a.m., 2 a.m. and you think that is okay. You grow up with that habit. I think that's why I agree with Agyemang when he says how you start is how, I mean, that's basically what you get used to. So I think the study makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so moving on, a new study shows that the same genetic variant that increases the risk of falling seriously ill with COVID-19 protects you from another serious disease. It reduces a person's risk of contracting HIV by 27%.
A study by Hugo Zerbeck, a researcher at the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology in Germany and Karolinska Institutet in Sweden, indicates that the same gene variant that increases the risk of falling seriously ill with COVID-19 reduces a person's risk of contracting HIV by 27%. Some people become seriously ill when infected with SARS-CoV-2, while others have only mild symptoms or no symptoms at all. In addition to risk factors such as advanced age and chronic diseases like diabetes, genetic heritage also contributes to an individual's COVID-19 severity risk. In the autumn of 2020, the researchers showed that people inherit major genetic risk factor for severe COVID-19 from Neanderthal. In the spring of 2021, the same researcher duo studied this variant in ancient human DNA and observed that its frequency has increased significantly since the last ice age. In fact, it has become unexpectedly common for a genetic variant inherited from Neanderthal. The genetic risk factor is located in a region on chromosome 3 that consists of many genes. There are several genes in its vicinity that encode receptors in the immune system. One of these receptors, CCR5, is used by the HIV virus to infect white blood cells. Zerbeck found that people who carry the risk factor of COVID-19 had fewer CCR5 receptors. This led him to test whether they also had a lower risk of becoming infected with HIV. By analyzing patient data from 3 major biobanks, FenGen, UK Biobank and Michigan Genomic Initiative, he found that carriers of the risk variant for COVID-19 had a 27% lower risk of contracting HIV. This shows how a genetic variant can be both good and bad news. Bad news if a person contracts COVID-19. Good news because it offers protection against getting infected with HIV, says Zerbeck.
So that was an interesting story right there. But I want us to talk about how COVID-19 genetic variant reduces one's risk of contracting HIV. Agyemang, I see would want to start.
Well,
with
you know, interestingly, this is we have to accept that these genetic variants are genes that are in the body and can increase the risk of we falling seriously ill. So accepting the premise for these genetic variants, let's go into where exactly this genetic variant is. I know people want to know where this is. You know, this genetic risk factor is located in the chromosome 3. That consists of many genes. Now, in that vicinity, what they do is just they encode the receptors of the immune systems. And one of these receptors is what we call the CCR5. CCR5 is used by HIV/AIDS. It's one of the genetic variants used by HIV/AIDS to infect the white blood cells. So these are genes in the body that support diseases to thrive. So strangely, would you believe that there's a gene in you that if a disease comes into you, it propels or facilitates the disease ability to thrive? That's naturally what it is. And like how we have in the human body an enzyme called ACE2 that allows, or like that causes the damage if the coronavirus enters the cells. It is in the body for a purpose, but it's the same way the reason why we seriously get the symptoms of COVID-19, and it's still in the human body. So this CCR5 is in the body, in the receptors, that helps HIV/AIDS to thrive and infect the white blood cells. You know, the white blood cells are where the immune systems work and fight. So if you go for a lab test and say in your white blood cells we find this, then it means that they are fighting something. Strangely, Zeeberg's study found out that people who had the risk of COVID-19 had no or less CCR5 receptors, or fewer of them. So if you have CCR5 in your body and it supports HIV/AIDS, and you having a COVID-19 risk variant in you reduces the amount of CCR5 in you, it means that HIV/AIDS has less support variants in you to help it grow. So someone with COVID-19 has reduced a level of CCR5 to make HIV/AIDS thrive. So for good news for that person with COVID-19 means that you can get HIV. Bad news.
You can get HIV. The study is saying that it only reduces your chance of getting HIV by just 27%. So there's a huge gap.
A very minimal rate of you getting HIV/AIDS. To appreciate the fact that, so in this case, someone with COVID-19 on the wholesome base perhaps has less chance of getting HIV/AIDS because of the minimal presence of the CCR5. On the other hand,
you know, I keep saying that we can never fully understand how this whole COVID-19 works. It seems each and every day new studies comes out with a lot of things, and I think this is actually a good one. So I mean, for those who are lucky enough to survive COVID after contracting it, this is good news for you, because then your gene is 27% are likely to fight against HIV/AIDS, and I think basically that's it.
So don't go anywhere as we bring you science and technology news after this short break. Stay tuned.
Welcome to our technology segment. Now, tourists from several destinations are returning to Zanzibar after a prolonged period due to COVID-19. Travel disruptions will soon be a thing of the past following the introduction of EDE technology by the local government. This is a new scanning method that can detect COVID-19 virus in the body for the first time in Africa.
Tourists from several destinations are now returning to Zanzibar after a prolonged period due to COVID-19 restrictions. Travel disruptions will soon be a thing of the past following the introduction of EDE technology by the local government. This is a new scanning method that can detect COVID-19 virus in the body, the first in Africa.
COVID testing. And as you know, all the tests have been very invasive, and this is the first that is non-invasive, and it is the first in Africa. So this is something that we regard as a big success for Zanzibar.
This non-invasive EDE technology has tested nearly 20,000 people with 93% accuracy even before its launch at Zanzibar International Airport.
EDE, that is exponential deep examination. It makes use of the electromagnetic waves that are emitted by the human body, and it captures any changes in these electromagnetic waves which are due to the infection of the coronavirus. So this is how a person is screened as negative or positive. It is very effective because we have already done many studies, many trials. More than 20,000 individuals have already been tested by this new technology, and we have compared our results with the PCR, so it is around 93.5% sensitive.
This is a relief to travelers who can now do without PCR tests and get scanned even 2 hours before their flights.
The experience with the new testing, it's very quick, it's easy, and it's fine. Before, from floodings and nose, and it's no good for, this is the better.
I'm very lucky today to receive all the passengers who came by Dubai.
Despite the local government acknowledging that Zanzibar has not had a positive case since January, caution is still required to resume the normal travels. The objective remains to facilitate air transit and revive tourism in a healthy space away from COVID-19.
That's an amazing, innovative application right there that uses AI to detect COVID-19 using magnetic waves. But let me just find out from my team right here about how do you feel about this non-invasive approach to detecting COVID-19?
You know, personally, I would want to first of all start by congratulating Tanzania for being the first African country to come up with a non-invasive method of detecting COVID-19. I think this is just marvelous. And I think what amazes me the most is the fact that it has been proven to be 93% effective, which means it works. Now, I think travelers are the ones who stand to benefit from this a lot, although it's going to be a relief for everyone. It's for travelers, it saves them the stress of having to have series of tests before you travel, because anyone who has traveled ever since COVID set in would tell you that before you are allowed to enter an airport, you'd have to do your first COVID test. When you get to your destination, you do another COVID test. When you are ready to come back to wherever you came from, you'd have to conduct another test. When you get to the airport, you'd conduct another test. So basically, if you're traveling for 5 days, you are looking at 4 COVID-19 tests. And it's not for free. It's expensive. So it is saving them the stress. It is also saving us money. A lot of people can't travel because of the cost involved in traveling ever since COVID set in. So I think this is just an amazing news for travelers.
Amazing.
Okay, so I also talk about the invasive test where people had to be tested by drawing blood with syringe, insertion of the nasal or throat swab to test for COVID-19. I bet isn't really a comfortable experience for many. And then another thing is the time taking to get the results from the PCR test. I stand to be corrected though, but I believe it takes several hours and sometimes days. So I think the introduction of the EDE technology, which is the potential de-examination, would save travelers time, stress to arrive at their destination country. And also, we have travelers who have a phobia for the PCR test, which is the nasal, the swab, and then the syringe use. So I think the introduction of this new technological examination makes it easier for the phobic travelers. Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I think personally now I actually want to travel because if all it takes is just a phone, you just scan me and then it tells if I have COVID or not in a matter of seconds. I think I really want to travel. And now that is all for the news. And in wrapping up, let's take a quick recap of our headlines. On higher education, Educator opposes Polytechnics to universities' Craze. And also the World Bank supports sees enrollment increase at TVET institutions.
And in our health news, children with insomnia likely to continue to suffer as adult long-term study funds. And again, COVID-19 genetic risk variant protects against HIV, steady fines.
Our tech story brought Tanzania unveiling a new non-invasive method to detect COVID-19 in the airports.
And now, thank you very much for watching the Midweek News. My name is Maame Ekua Otuakoa.
And I am Jemima Deladem Dotsey.
My name is Agyemang, Darko, and we're glad you made time to join us on AAU TV News. Keep watching us, be safe, have a nice day, bye.